What's up, everybody? This is Big Swiss, and I am back with another episode of The Process. And today I have Mr. Talk to Me Nice himself, Jered Sanders. Welcome to the show, Jered. How you doing today, man?
Man, I'm good, man. No complaints.
Sweet. Well, man, we are just talking about how this is a little long overdue, but I've been really excited for this one, man. Tell me how the release to the new album has gone.
Man, it's been going great, dog. I got the news probably about 15 minutes ago. Talk to Me Nice hit 100K on Spotify in like 4 days, man. It's pretty lit.
Nice. How do you see that compared to previous projects? This is the first project you've dropped in a while.
Yeah. I would say it's probably the fastest to 100K. Like I had some slow burners. I think Hope is Dope too, and Hurry Up and Wait kind of took off later. But definitely Hope is Dope too. I think I had like maybe a year ago, Run My Fade and All In kind of took a life of their own, which is like proof positive for artists. Like, don't stop working the records, because like that project came out in 2020. And so those records actually, hit, 200, 300, 400, 500,000 streams way after the fact. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So don't doubt yourself. But yeah, this was the fastest to 100K, no doubt.
And if I remember correct, when you sent me an early listen, you made this after the project you teased at the end of this project. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
it felt like an appetizer for this main course that's coming. So tell me about the thought process in releasing Talk to Me Nice before Famous Enough, and kind of why you wanted to tease that at the end.
So it's interesting because I felt like with Famous Enough, I wanted to make Talk to Me Nice first, right? I wanted to make that first. And what ended up happening is just like I had too much depth to expound upon before I could really get to having fun. And so I really feel like God was not letting me have any fun, you know what I'm saying, until we got to the point where I really got to really air out the things that I needed to, really expound on things that I needed to expand on. And then, after that, it was like freedom. I got to be outside again. So, that's when Talk to Me Nice really took off.
That's really interesting, because now you got me thinking, because I've got to hear both projects.
Right.
And they're different but similar in ways, right? Like you have a way of, like, Dear Christian Rapper feels like an appetizer, but so does The Breakup, so does so do other things. So how did you decide, since none of the projects had been released and you had all the songs done, how did you decide what was going on what project?
I knew that Famous Enough was a complete thought. So I didn't feel like adding anything to it would have done anything. So from there, I felt like I was also just in a different headspace. So it was kind of just an opportunity for me to just create from more of a free space, a lot less, introspection. Like I think I've always kind of done that in previous projects of mine. I've always kind of taken the opportunity to provide context and perspective to things in a unique way. But I do think that Famous Enough is so heavy that, I think people are going to be really grateful that Talk to Me Nice came first. I really do. Like, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think they are.
Because it's setting us up.
Right. It's a setup.
Because you definitely hit some heavy themes in Talk to Me Nice too. So it's not like it's all, fun rap, Jered. There's still some serious stuff. I mean, you come out pretty strong in your first song with Morning Devotion, which I know you dropped as a single, but you say, I used to pray for seats and tables that God was not preparing. The gnashing teeth was me. The label was a lot to bear with. Talk to me about like what that meant to you. I saw your interview with OB on Friday. Well,
Right.
not on Friday. I watched it Sunday because I went and saw Dune.
Cool. Yeah.
But
Good taste.
I thought you guys kind of expounded a little bit on kind of the entitlement culture of Christian hip hop.
Right.
But how have you seen yourself grow 4 years removed as well, of like understanding the seats that God was not preparing you for so that he could prepare you for seats that you are prepared for?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think silence allowed me to really get a chance to survey the landscape and understand why Jered is here. What does Jered have to say? Because I think when you get too closely enamored by what's going on in the scene, a lot of times where you fall short is you start to jump into mimicry, you start to jump into imitation because you think that's going to be the thing that gets you the wave to catch on to. And it's proof positive for me that, look, man, I sat out for 4 years and I came back and I had my fastest streaming project ever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like in a time of absence. So it feels like I'm finally at the point where I could kind of know where I stand and know where I sit at.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was actually talking with Naladeus yesterday. Shout out to the homie.
Yeah.
Shout out
Naladeus.
But I think what I find interesting about the artist I'm attracted to as far as like what they write and how they make music is that they try not to mimic. They don't listen to a lot of music to get inspired, or they're listening to completely other genres to get inspired. And I know that's something he does. And I know you've said that that's things you do. Like you listen to like a lot of R&B, which we get some of that on this project of the Singing Jered.
Right.
And so, do you think maybe not only just the 4 years removed, but just being in a different headspace of inspiration of what you're listening to maybe impacted the way that you constructed Talk to Me Nice?
I'll be honest with you. Like, I don't listen to a lot of rap, period. It just does. It doesn't do for me what it once did. And I kind of expound on that on the breakup.
Yep.
I just don't really feel like I have anything to prove anymore. And so I'm not really, like, if I'm listening to rap, it's because I genuinely found something intriguing enough for me to listen for longer than 60 seconds. Like, because honestly, a lot of it doesn't inspire me. So I'm in here listening to like Infinity Song and, what I'm saying? I'm out here listening to stuff that has nothing to do with rap because that actually is what inspires me. So to a degree, I would say that, Talk to Me Nice kind of formed itself the way that it did because I didn't want it to sound like something somebody's already heard before. But to a degree, I wanted it to sound a little bit familiar, though. Like something that wasn't so heavy that you'd be like, man, cut this off. Like, I don't know what this is. So, yeah. So it was a little balance of both.
Yeah, you brought up the breakup, and I think that's probably my favorite record on the album.
Word.
I don't know. I'm kind of going back and forth between the breakup, Baby Steps. I love Baby Steps, and oh my gosh, my brain is freezing right now. The record with Selah and Back Up, man. That track is fire. But this is kind of a theme we've seen, and I even saw kind of parts of this in Aha as well, of kind of leaving the mainstream hip hop. Do you think that's just a natural maturation of your walk as a Christian too? Like being able to see like, hey, I like the way this sounds. I don't like the content though, because that's where I am. Like I listened to Cuddy's new record a couple weeks ago, and man, the production, Cuddy's incredible, but man, he's just a trash writer. Like I'm like, this just isn't good content for me.
Right.
Do you think that just naturally happens as you get older? I don't know how old you are. I'm 40, so like I've been listening to hip hop for 30 plus.
I'm knocking on 40. So
yeah, and it's like I'm kind of getting bored of hearing the same things over and over. Do you think that just happens as a natural?
Maybe, but it's kind of interesting. I feel that happens with just about any generation. Like they were fascinated with what they grew up on because it came off rebellious and riveting. It gets the people going, right? And then you get older and then you have kids and you realize that the stuff that you found interesting when you were younger, you just know that's not good for kids. Like, it's not good for the generation coming up. And so, like, yes, I can listen to some of it and find something that's interesting in it, but I do know that that's not something I want to make a habit of treating like a guilty pleasure. Like I'm only listening to rap music when the kids aren't around. It's
good. That's good.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, okay, if I wouldn't listen to it in front of them, then it really doesn't benefit me to listen to it like that at all.
Is that something that's new in your family, or is that something that has kind of been a while? I don't know how old your kids are, but like,
yeah, I got an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Okay, is that something you decided early on, or is this more of a
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but it's not even just rap. I'm cognizant of a lot of the messaging, like in a lot of the music. Telling my wife, I was like, yeah, you can't play Beyonce around the Carol. You can't, like, you can't. There's just stuff. It's just I understand what's going on, the underlying, messages, and I'm like, yeah, nah, like, nah, we're good. Like,
Yeah.
so my son listens to beats. He's a big percussion kid. So my daughter listens to melodies. So, if we can find R&B that's not, sexual in nature, if we can find, something that has some knock to it that isn't, derogatory, usually I'll let them kind of, be around it, which is kind of what, to a degree, some of CHH is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm cool with it.
I saw you posted a video of your son saying Mike Teasy was his favorite rapper.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know, it's just you can't win every battle, man. It's just no matter how much you feed them and clothe them and all that stuff, they just the loyalty is just an interesting thing, man.
Yeah. So for everyone who's watching who just heard him say that he won't play Beyonce, don't be coming after Jered in his DMs about what he doesn't. That's a conviction. It's not an essential.
Nah, if you
I don't
do,
want to
hey,
hear
that's
it.
cool because I'll block you. Listen, my block congregation is like lit. Like
That's nice.
I'm not about to let y'all rob me of my joy, man.
So speaking of that, I was so curious what your DMs looked like after you released Dear Christian Rapper. I mean, you had a lot of things to say that is very relevant to the last year in Christian hip hop. I think it was a record that needed to be made, and I think you were able to toe a line that felt gracious to everyone while
Right,
also standing up for convictions at the same time. I just thought it
right.
was well written. What was when you released that? What was your DMs looking like? Were people coming after you at all, or?
Nah, it was a lot of thank yous.
Oh, great.
Like truthfully, it was a lot of like, thank you for saying it. You know what I'm saying? So I really wasn't disappointed at all with the reception. Actually, out of all the leaks that I dropped, that one was listened to the most. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, there were some people on different social medias, accounts that commented on it. They were like blah blah, and there was actually a guy I can't remember his name. Like he was like, "This is whack," and I was like, "Nah, thanks for listening." And when I
I
said
remember
thanks
you
for
seeing that.
listening, like he replied and he was like, "Oh man, thank you, bro. Like I followed you." Like it was kind of like, "Oh, you a fan? Like you just wanted some attention." Okay, well I'm glad my response was what it was, but generally on the DMs, man, people, come on, man, people know what's up, and I found it essential to toe a line. Interestingly enough, because I feel like the space is so diverse now. I think the only thing that I wish I saw more of was more variety in the presentation. I look at the way that reels look from every artist, and they're either like the DIY look, and or like the hey, I got this friend who raps, and hey, I want you to record him, and it's like they're themselves at the booth and they're themselves on the computer, and I'm like, oh my God, why can we not do something else? And it feels like it's just mimicry at its finest. And I'm just like, man, y'all might not like y'all catalog 5 years from now if you keep doing this to yourselves, because you're gonna look like everybody else, and I just don't think that stands out, man.
Yeah, I know. I know you and I have chatted a little bit about how you prepare, how you're going to prepare visuals. And Naladeus and I were talking about that yesterday because he's like, man, Dayton wants me to do these reels, and I'm just not big on marketing. And he called me because he saw the interview I did with Braille, and Braille brought up that he's not a marketing guy. And so that's how the conversation got started. And I was like, man, every time I see some reels like that, I think, man, these guys gotta hate doing it like that. And the guy who I think is doing it really well is Obed Padilla. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram, but his visuals, and he only gives you like 15, 30 seconds of the song. But however he gets his lighting, his focal point, and his ISO on every single thing blows my mind. It's captivating to me.
Okay, yeah,
How
I
do
think I see
you
him.
Yeah. He's fire. How do you prepare how you want to create visuals? Because I know you got a lot of stuff planned coming up this year.
Yeah, I got
don't
some
want to give
stuff
it
in the
away,
tuck.
but
Yeah, I got some
yeah.
stuff in the tuck, man. I just want so sincerely to be able to make something that because okay, so success leaves breadcrumbs, right? But there's also a part of the process where I feel like you still have to find yourself in that process of following breadcrumbs. And so, where I think that what I've seen, just like in creating Talk to Me Nice, I've seen a lane that fits me, a way that I'm going to present this content. And it's not going to look like what everybody else is doing. And the reality is only a few of them are successful at doing it this way. Like we cannot keep pretending like the people that are doing the same stuff are reaping the same results. There's a lot of people
Right.
that are doing the same thing, and a very, very small group of people are being successful at it. And I think that there's a reason for that. It's because people who are spectators, they can recognize the real. Like they can notice when it's like, hey, this is a little counterfeit. Like I've seen this before, and I don't want to do that. Like I want to be able to present something that, yes, it's a real, but how are we going to make this interesting?
How do you make it a non-disposable piece of content?
Right. And that's kind of exactly where I'm at, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, because I think what you said actually articulates kind of what I talk about a lot at work is like, hey, this is disposable content. No one's going to lose their salvation if they don't see it or we don't get it out on time or whatnot. And I'm like talking about that a lot. But also, we like to reuse content that's specifically great for the body or whatnot. So like, for example, we're re-releasing an Easter piece of content we did a couple of years ago. We just rebranded it with the new colors this year, and
Right.
It's a great piece of content, and it does well. Mm-hmm. And I think what you said was, if you want to still love your project 5 years later, you need to make something that's different. And so when you're approaching how you create something that you're going to love, and like, do you go into thinking like, how am I going to love this in 5 years? Classic album. Does it hold up 5 years later?
Okay. Yeah. What I would say is when I did the first promo run for Daylight Saving Time in the very beginning, the very first line of that promo video was, make what you think is dope. Mm-hmm. So that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to still think it's dope. You can still look in the mirror and know that it was dope content. And one thing that I can say that I could tip my hat to is like, I'm not upset with anything that I've done because I really wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's where I land on it. Like, I wouldn't want to create something that, oh man. And this is the part that always gets you in trouble. It's like, come on, guys. It's like, when you're 40 and you're out here making the music you're making now, like the kitty youth groupie music, and trying to present young, and it's like, fam, you're not going to be able to do this that much longer. Like your fans are going to get older.
Right.
Like, and it's not going to work as much as you think it is. Like even the GOATs, the premier artists in this genre, they've all grown up. They've all made more mature content. They all do. Like, it's not just about what spins well on TikTok. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They've made something that is substantive and sticks with you. People still talk about Craig's like first album to this day because he made something that, I feel like he's still proud of.
Yeah, I'm even thinking about like, everything you were just saying. It got me thinking about what I was listening to 20 years ago, and I wasn't walking with the Lord in that time. And I lived in the Bay Area at the time, and I would go to the Fillmore almost every weekend and catch any hip hop show. And I used to love that Midwest. I mean, I saw Little Brother open for the Roots. I saw Atmosphere. I saw, pretty much everyone from the Rhymesayers Collective. I mean, almost every weekend. And I still listen to those guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I still listen to Atmosphere. I still listen to Little Brother. The Roots haven't released an album in a long time, but, Black Thought's still dropping stuff, and he's still himself, but his content's better. It's maturing with me. And even like Atmosphere, for example, I don't necessarily like his music now.
Right.
I can respect the growth he's had as an artist, and the sounds have changed, and I can kind of get why, he's going to rap about that now at 45 versus 25.
Yeah.
And so when you look back at, I'm going to get these mixed up. Almost Famous, is that?
Nobody Famous.
Nobody Famous, thank you. 2015, and you're looking at Famous Enough coming up. Like, how are you looking at those two projects of where you started in CHH? I know you were rapping before that to now.
Man, I've come a long way. And I think that what I've learned the most about what's happened is I've become more and more comfortable being transparent. Like, I've become more and more, like I was, rapping. I think I was rapping to something before. Now I'm rapping from something. And so, I'm taking more of a empathetic approach to the content I'm making and being okay with the results, because I'm pretty confident that, moving forward, I'm going to say some things that are going to make people uncomfortable. But I'm like, I said what I said. And I think that's where I've gotten to, and I think that's why I had to make Nobody Famous. Famous Enough first, because it got to the point where I had to say it scared. You know what I'm saying? I had to say it scared.
Interesting.
And so that was going to be the way that I learned, and that was going to be the way that I matured and gave people the best presentation I could.
Well, I think starting with Talk to Me Nice is a really good start, because I think, when you look at DCR and you look at The Breakup and Baby Steps and Morning Devo and there's so many songs. I think you're very transparent. I think that's what attracts people now, especially as the space has grown in the past.
Yeah.
Gosh, like 5 years, it feels like CHH is. I don't like to use the term oversaturated, because I'm not going to complain about more music that glorifies Jesus. Like, we're not all going to get to heaven and Jesus is going to be like, some of y'all should have. I don't think that's going to happen.
Right.
But I think it also leads to people expecting certain things from artists that the artist isn't wanting to do. Right. Like,
true.
I think you were talking about when we were texting at one point, you're saying, now when I'm done with a project, I move on. Like, I'm done. And was that you that said that?
I hope not. That sucks.
Yeah, I don't remember who said that. I thought it was you. Somebody had told me, like, hey, when I'm done with a project and I move on to another project, like, that other project isn't dead to me, but like it's encapsulated. It's almost compartmentalized.
Okay.
I think that's what they were trying to say.
Okay.
Is like that stands on itself, and this new project doesn't have anything to do with that. But
right.
After listening to both, I feel like there's just a lot of like linking connections to it that are really setting us up to be prepared for it. Because I've been gassing up the project since last summer, since you sent it to me. I'm trying not to make this about that album. I want to make this about Talk to Me Nice. But
oh no, that will come in its time, and
yes,
and that will be.
I definitely want to have
think
that.
Pieces galore. I promise.
I have a whole write-up that I've been doing on the side that I haven't shown you yet. I sent you a lot of notes on that one.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say is I think the fans are also entitled the same way you were talking earlier about how artists can be entitled. Like, they're almost demanding from you something that you're not wanting to give them because you're in this headspace. Is that something that you're experiencing as you're coming back after 4 years off? Or
at first, yeah, because what was going to happen is Famous Enough was the way I had it in my mind initially was I was going to have Famous be like all the most crazy commercial singles, and then Enough was going to be the sentimental pieces. And I just could not rap to any of the fun stuff. I just couldn't do it. The first record that I wrote after 3.5 years of silence was iPhone Thoughts 2. And when I did that, I was like, oh no. Like, you're hearing the foreshadowing music. It's like, yo, this is not going to be fun. Like, this is going to be a really uncomfortable, jarring thing. And, and the second record I did, wrote was Valley. And I was like, oh no, like this is, please God, like let me do anything other than this. You know what I'm saying? And I just couldn't. So, 26, 27 records later, then it was like, okay, now you can have fun. Like, and I'm just like, oh man, this sucks. Like, yeah.
Yeah. What was the record on Talk to Me Nice you had the most fun with?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I had the most fun on uh-huh. Yeah, because that was actually like the last one that got added. Because J Dot, every now and again, J Dot will throw some records in the Telegram and he'll be like, hey man, I know you're not looking, but check these out. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I just started playing and I heard the beat for and I was like, the little Jamaican Caribbean drums at first. I was like, oh, this is cool. Da, 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 da. And then the drums kicked and I was like, oh my gosh. Like, all right, yeah, I'll have something to you soon, bro. Like once that hit, I was like, that's it.
One that I thought sounded fun was Backup with, like I said, with Selah and William Cotta.
Yeah.
And man, I need y'all to connect on like a full album. Like, what was the process collaborating? I know you've collaborated with Selah a lot.
Right.
Is this the first time you've collaborated with William Cotta?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because I know he's new, but man, I've been loving everything he puts out.
Yeah.
And I thought y'all's voices and styles complement each other really well on that record. But what was the collaboration with working with someone like Selah, who you've done tons of records with, and Cotta at the same time? What was that like?
Well, see, I think one thing that I do well, if I may say, I A&R a project really well. Okay. Like I can put a song together. I can find the right features, the right collaborations, like the right sequencing of records to make something make sense. And so when I got the record for Backup, it actually came from a level of, like, on Twitter, I saw somebody post like Gritty CHH and they had all these faces. And I was like, hey, yo, why y'all didn't call me? Like and they were like, nah, bro, this is over here. You got your own thing. And I was like, oh, yeah? All right. Like, and so, like, when I heard the beat, I was like, back the heck up. If you ain't about his glory, then pack. So when I did that, I said, oh, we got something. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then my wife was upstairs working. I was like, let me fire up this computer. And I did the verse. And I was like, who would be cool on this record? And then I was like, I know Selah would, because we were supposed to, and he actually mentioned it on the song. He was like, this is that Step Brothers y'all should have got. Like, me and Selah, when we were on the GOM tour in 2019, we had been collecting beats to make a joint project called Step Brothers, like based on the Will Ferrell joint. And like we was going to do a whole like tape based on that. And, time got the best of us and, getting back home from tour and all that, life lifed. And so we couldn't make it happen. And then I had Will in my mind for a record a long time ago. And I just was like, who would make this work? And then when I heard Will's project, I said, that guy. Like, as soon as that guy. I was like, you're going to be the second verse. Selah's going to be the third verse. And we're going to make this whole thing a joint. And I think it came out fire.
Yeah. I mean, it got instant repeats when I heard it. I think he just made Freshman Rapzilla today too, right? Didn't he?
Will's an older. Yeah, I think Will's an older freshman.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I don't think it's this
now
year.
I feel stupid. But shout out to William Cotta, because
yeah, for sure.
That dude doesn't miss.
Right.
Yeah, I would love to hear more from the three of you. I don't know. I think that would work. When you collaborate with someone like Selah, or even a newer guy that you haven't collaborated with like Cotta, do you guys edit each other verses at all? Like, when you send each other verses, do you say, hey, I really like this, I don't like this? Like, what is that process like for you as you kind of A&R a project, like you said?
I haven't had to do that yet. And I think it's because, like, my goal is to apply pressure, right? So if I'm going to ask for a feature, I'm gonna make sure mine is fire, so that it will. And I also want people to do a feature that they want to do.
Right.
Like, because I don't want to just have this feature like, oh, hey, man, we should probably do a record together, and then it comes out whack. Like, my thing is, I'm going to make a fire verse. So if you don't, you're going to make it easier for me to choose not to put you on the song. That's all that's going to really happen. Like, I'm going to be like, all right, well, this wasn't it, and move on. But Selah, I knew Selah was going to be the third verse. I just was hoping that Will was going to execute, and he did. So it worked out.
Yeah, I love that record. Peace of Mind is another record I really liked, mostly from a lyrical perspective. I mean, I love the production on it, but when you were talking about like the thing that you've changed the most probably in the last 4 years is that you're fine being more transparent. And you're kind of inviting us into your prayer life a little bit. And I love it when people can kind of sort of put the pen to paper and be able to like articulate what they're hearing from God. I think that's such an interesting thing. So how has your prayer life changed since you wrote that record? Because it's so heavy, and I want to share with you how it changed something in me after you're done with this, because I think you'll be interested in how that record affected me.
I've gotten to the point in my prayer life with God where I'm just gonna say it. I think where I'm getting to the place, though, as I continue to grow, is recognizing that though he is personal, though there's an intimate relationship, he's also holy, right? So I'm always straddling the line between being, too chummy and, and not reverent enough. And sometimes, trying to navigate it. I think that's why the second verse kind of came off like this is like the perspective that God's levying down. Like, you ever wonder where you got it all from? Like this,
Job.
Yeah. So I tried to navigate it from both perspectives. And hopefully I was able to do that. But that's one of those ones that like I didn't expect for people to gravitate to be perfectly honest with you. Like Peace of Mind, I thought I almost thought Peace of Mind wasn't going to make it. Like it would have been like the last one out. Like, because I felt like right before Decent, it was like Decent was already mellowed down. You know, so to proceed that with another record that was mellowed down, I think the thing that saved it was the drums. The drums were trapped, they were heavy, they were aggressive enough, so it worked. But that was almost the last track out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I was listening to it a while ago when you had sent me kind of the early listen, and I wanted to tell you I was going to text it to you, but I was like, I'll wait till we talk. The thing that it got me thinking about how I approach prayer and and I'm still wrestling with this, to be honest, is the prostration of prayer, and how I think when we get into heaven, we're going to when you see God, you're just going to fall to your knees, right? Like it's going to be an automatic response. Yet I think I'm uncomfortable doing that now in my human body, and it's like, what's the impact it would have on my wife if she saw me get on my knees when I prayed, or if my coworkers saw me do that, or because, I think some of the things that I see pastors do sometimes is they'll get on their knees and pray on the stage. And I'm like, man, I respect the humility it takes to get on your knees. And when I listen to that song, that's what popped into my head is like, man, am I approaching God with the reverence that I should have when I know I'm going to get to heaven? Because when I'm in heaven, I'm not going to have a problem doing it. But why do I have a problem doing it now?
That's a good one.
That's what that song did for me, man. It got me thinking that way.
That's dope. That's dope.
So I love that. I love that record. I think for me, it's one of those. It goes on the playlist of. I started making a playlist of reverent hip hop songs that make me do that, and that got slapped on that playlist of, hey, when I need to go on a walk and be alone and maybe just kind of like what you're saying, just this being in some silence of people, but I'm still hearing things that like connect me to God. That's one of those songs. So
Word.
I think it's one of your best records. But I noticed the label for this project was a little different. Talk to me about Hope is Dope.
Yeah, man. When I came to GOM very early in the process, I think me and Biz's first conversation, he was like, "So what do you want?" I was like, "I mean, eventually, like, I'd want to have my own label. Like, I want to have one, and I would call it Hope is Dope." And it took some years to kind of build it out and get it into fruition. But the opportunity presented itself when I had a conversation with Doc over at RMG, and he was like, "Yeah, I mean, we can help you with that. We've got a system in place that can help you, and whenever you want to sign artists or anything like that, we could put you in position to do that." And I was like, "Oh man, that's kind of cool. So this is really an opportunity. This is a real thing." And also to build it out, having been out for 4 years, what I felt also, I didn't think Famous Enough would have been what it could be if I didn't build out my profile again. Like if I didn't build out my platform again. And so I knew that I had to find a way to make something that was engaging, that would get the people talking, so that when Famous Enough came, it wasn't going to fall on deaf ears. It would be like, "Oh man, he's back again." Like it wouldn't be, like a cold start. And so I think mission accomplished, man. I think that more people are tuned in now. And it seems to me that streaming algorithms, they benefit the active, So if you are active and you continue to provide new music to your profile and your platform, it tends to benefit you more, because then, Spotify's algorithmic playlists start to pay attention more, and the editorial playlists are like, "Oh man, this guy again," and it really helps. So I think it was a great opportunity to set up something else, and Hope is Dope was just the platform that would allow me to create a platform in order to provide a platform, I should say.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, I see a lot of artists trying to do that, right? Like Indie Tribe is their own label, but it's not like they have other people.
No, it's just a collective.
Music. Okay. So are you going to make a collective out of that maybe potentially in the future, or is it just going to be different Jered Sanders projects? Like maybe you drop an R&B project under that label.
Well, I actually have my eyes on a couple artists.
Ooh.
I have a couple artists. Yeah, so I've got my eyes right now on two.
You can tell me off camera who you're thinking about.
I've got my eyes on two.
Okay.
And if I can create a platform to provide, I think that and bring them into a system that I know works. And is effective, I think it could really be really helpful. And that's really where I'm at with it. I'm just like, by the end of this year, with the amount of content people are going to get, I believe that I'll be able to offer a platform to somebody, because my work ethic would benefit them. Like if we did a feature, a collaboration, and I made myself a main, I'd be benefiting them by being a part of the record. I want to be able to do that for other people.
I think that's fire. Man, now I'm like in my head, like going through who would Jered pick, but I need to get that out of my head right now.
It wouldn't be somebody that you would think.
Okay.
I'm trying to find somebody that when I bring them into the space, it'll be like, "Oh man, like this is really cool. I didn't expect this." That's what I'm going for.
I like that. You've brought up kind of the algorithmic way of like keeping content. I remember last year there was probably like 7 weeks in a row John Keats on my release radar picture. I'm like, dude, this dude's just dropping too much content. And I want to say my second episode of the process, I had Mowgli on from Indie Tribe, and the whole reason I brought him on was he said, "I'll probably never make an album again. I'm just gonna slowly drip singles forever, because it doesn't make sense for me to put that effort into making an album, yet the album experience." And I went on, I was like, dude, the album experience for me is everything. Even as you had dropped Morning Devo, DCR, and what's the name with Mission?
Blessing.
Thank you, Blessing. You know, I listen to those tracks, but I try not to listen to singles that I know are on an album because I want to enjoy the album, and that experience is so interesting to me as I listen to full albums start to finish. Because, as I've said on the show before, like when I listen to an album, I'm going 5 straight off the rip. Like I'm gonna listen to it 5 times and like go through it. And so, what I appreciate is how you're still releasing content that's giving us a tease that fits within a cohesive project. Are we going to see early listens of Famous Enough as we... Good. I don't think you should. I think Talk to Me Nice is that. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. I love that. So we've talked a little bit about it, but to give the people watching who may think like, man, what is, you know, I've listened to this album, I've heard them talk about Famous Enough. What do you want them to glean from this project that they're not going to glean from the project coming in the summer, and vice versa?
I don't want them to glean anything from this project to connect it to the next project.
Right. I'm not even implying that. I just mean like in general, what headspaces do you want people to be in when they approach both projects?
I think for Famous, I think the headspace is just to, you know, it's not a heavy project, I would say. It approaches some semi-heavy things, but it's not a heavy project in comparison. I would say, you know, there's some records you could ride to, like, because it'll be coming out in the summer. There's some records you could ride to, there's some records you could vibe to. The singles, some of them are, you know, the joint with me and G Rose is crazy. But I think that it's gonna feel like a summer album. Like, and if you really listen to it, the more that I listen to it, it sounds like you press play in the morning and let it ride through the end, and you'll realize it's like sunrise to sunset. Like, and that's what like Famous is. And then Enough is like overnight. Like it's the stuff that it's really dark. And then you start to, and then it ends almost like the sun's rising again. Like, so I want people to be in the headspace where like during Famous, you could just ride in the car.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. It's a car ride joint. Enough is the joint where you're like, what am I doing with my life? Like,
That's true, man. That's true. Dude, I you sent me that project literally as I was driving out to a vacation, and I was like, sweet. I know what I'm doing on this vacation. I'm going to give this a listen. And normally I'm like I said, I'll give like 5 listens. I think I listened to that project 20 times that weekend. Like
fire.
Even my wife is like, are you like okay? Because I would start sobbing on some of the songs. There's songs that made me sob, but we'll talk about that when we get to the future.
That'll be in this time. Yeah.
How do you want people to? What headspace do you want them to be on this? Because I do think there are projects that have some heavier content, even in, you know, your favorite song. You have that whole bar about, you say like the radio won't ever say what they did. They play all the rappers who's raising the sig, which is a deep gun owner cut right there. Because I don't know a lot of people that own cigs, but I think the funny thing, the thing I want to know is, are you a prophet? Because you also say the industry rappers are raising your kids, claiming them all in your taxes. Even the government try to campaign it's a trip. And they just released that whole like hip hop Congress board of like, I don't know. I saw that and then I heard the song. I'm like, wait, Jered said this like a couple of months ago. Well, last week for us, but I heard it a couple months ago.
Yeah. So it's all programming, man. It's all programming. And when you start to get to the point where the government is pushing it, it's like, all right, guys, you sure you want to do this? Like, this is the one you wanna? Okay. So yeah, and it's pretty telling. It's almost foreshadowing that is right before the breakup, like the track before. So like, and based on how the second verse goes, it kind of leads to, this is why I don't want to be here anymore. And it, you know, but I feel like I I managed on the project for Talk to Me Nice. I managed to make something that's edifying, that's also entertaining.
Yep.
And I think that's how I wanted to represent myself to the world. I wanted to be able to say, like, I haven't lost a step. If anything, like, this isn't like football or basketball. Like, when you have time and experience, your mind should get sharper. Like, you should be more focused. And so, like, I do say this, I do believe that Talk to Me Nice is some of the sharpest writing, like, I've done from previous projects. And so I wanted that to be very apparent, that the emphasis should be on what people are saying. And, you know, I said it in, you know, other interviews as well. I also believe that we have to be competitive, because, like, God is competing for the ears of people right now with all this stuff that's going on. And, you know, at least what we want is the Christian content to be competitive and persuasive. Like, so, hey, this is better than what you're listening to over there. And so I wanted the emphasis to be, like, even in the records that had a bop to them, like, there was a message in the song that you could grab.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
And that's true about as you say, like, the sharpest you've written. It's like, you know, on your first listen of Aha, you're probably just breaking your neck, nodding your head. But then when you get in the lyrics, you're like, oh, snap. He's got something to say here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Talk to me more about the competitive thing, because I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
As we look into like how should Christians compete with other Christians versus how Christians should compete with secular music?
Honestly, I think that I don't, and maybe this is just me, I don't personally believe Christians should be competing with Christians.
Right.
But I think innately that is what is actually happening, though. You know, social media in and of itself is a lot like television programming. So the way that it's built is you want people to tune into your channel and pay attention to the things that you're promoting and broadcasting on your channel. And what are you going to be posting that is going to make somebody want to continue to come back to your channel? And you want them to come to your channel. So by proxy, that's going to make them go to someone else's channel less. So streams, views, followers, all of those are metrics that indicate how much somebody is getting attention. And if that attention is getting significantly more than yours, you know, if you're an insecure artist, you might find a problem with that, you know. So we're innately competing against each other because we're in the same marketplace as the secular industry. But when I think about Christian content creators, Christian music creators, I think that we have to be competitive, because what did Sho Baraka said? If I wanted to listen to Drake, I'll listen to Drake. Like, why do we have to make music that sounds like that? Like, because somebody who's enthralled with the world is just going to tune into Drake. You know, they're just going to tune into those things that we're deriving our sounds from. So whatever it is that we're doing, make sure that, like, you're not competing against Miles Minnick and No Big Deal. Like, you're competing against J. Cole and Drake and Kendrick Lamar. Like, that's the bar right now. Those are the industry standard. And if you're not competing at an industry standard level, I don't know what you're doing. Because that's the only way to really make certain that, you know, the message that we have can start to resonate with more people. It's got to be competitive, man. I can't stop thinking about that. And that's because I came from the secular side.
Right.
Like, why rage against the machine when you can just unplug it? And, like, that was a Fonte line that stuck with me for the longest. And so for me, it's like, I'm not competing with y'all, like, for real. Like, I'm like, nah. I came over here because I was sick of what they were doing over there. You know, so, but I want to wild out on them with music that is edifying and encouraging and entertaining at the same time. I want to make them know when these music videos start to drop and these reels start to drop and this content starts to post and this music starts to stream. I want the world who does cross paths and sees this, they're like, you know, this is fire. Like, to me, that would be the win.
I'll save that question for another day. I have like 6 questions, but the one I was about to ask was like, I'll wait on that one.
Word.
How do you combat? Because you said a lot of things I think are really interesting. One, you're consistent with your thinking around how all the reels look the same, so you need to change the way it is, or else who's going to look at it?
Right.
How do you combat your identity in your work versus your identity in Christ? Because I think that's probably one of the hardest things, maybe as a hip hop artist. I'm not a hip hop artist, but I understand a lot about the values that hip hop provides and their elements and what it is, like what the culture provides. Right. And you coming from the secular side now and the Christian side, how do you combat that feeling of putting, if a project doesn't hit the way you thought it would hit, or when a project doesn't hit or does hit that you didn't think would, like Peace of Mind, like how does that affect your walk?
I'll say this, like I've gotten to the point more than anything in this last 4 years where I've landed is I know who Jered is outside of what Jered does. And I ask our youth in our Bible study, I asked them this past Sunday, I said, hey, who are you outside of what you do? Like, tell me who you are without telling me what you do. And they were like, well, how do I know that? I'm like, so one of them said they're a wrestler. And I was like, no, you're not a wrestler. Like you just happen to wrestle. But let's say you tear your ACL, MCL, and PCL and you can't wrestle anymore. Are you not you anymore? Like what makes you you? I know that I'm a ham, I'm gonna tell a bunch of jokes. I know that I'm quick-witted. I know that I'm introspective. I know that I am very thoughtful when it comes to my approach in delivering things. I know that I care about the perception of others when it comes to, things that I say. I know that I'm a person who loves to learn some of everything. Like I'm a person who, like, I'm the guy that if you're playing like a trivia game, I need to be on your team because like I'm gonna know a little bit about everything. Right. And so when something does well that I don't expect, I'm still grounded because I know those things don't define me. Right. And when things go wrong that I expect to go great, I'm still grounded because I know they don't define me. Like at the end of the day, when I walk in this house, like as much as my kids think I rap really cool, or like my wife is still going to ask me to wash the dishes. So like I'm still grounded in that regard. Mm-hmm. So my identity's not tied to these metrics in this imaginary universe that really don't mean anything when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I just want to affirm you in what you said, because even when I don't have the CHH Business Chat muted, when I watch you interact with the other men in that chat, I'm always kind of blown away with the way you respond, the way you communicate with the guys. I think you really do come from a place of sincerity and just knowing who you are when you say
Except
it.
Harry. Except Harry. Me and Harry be going at it. But Harry is like, he's the most engaged member of the group. So like he's probably got, you know how somebody got like Twitter, they got like 30,000 tweets and you got like 5? That's Harry. Like Harry's got 30,000. So yeah, I'm always, for whatever reason, I always find myself responding to him. But, needless to say, shout out to Harry. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to balance the difference between saying something and having something to say. And I think I'm getting better at it now. There was once a time, if you'd have caught me 5 years ago, I'd have been in every argument, in every like debate. And I'm just like, it's not worth it, bro. Like, it's just not.
I'm still learning that. So, man, I give you permission to publicly check me at any point. So what can we expect from Talk to Me Nice visually? Like, do you got any music videos planned?
Yeah, man.
Anything coming out?
Yeah. My daughter's coming with me to shoot content, man. She'll be on spring break next week. So it's going to be a lituation out here. We'll be shooting a lot of stuff. I actually got a video guy around here who I think is called, but is actually going to be the first visual for the whole tape. And then we'll shoot some other, reels and some other content as well. But yeah, I'm just excited about what's to come. I feel like now the way that the algorithm is set up, different people have different philosophies, right? Mm-hmm. And this is one thing that I've learned. Different people have different philosophies. So some people are like, for that one song, you should have 10 pieces of content, right? Some people say stuff like that. But then I look at Foggy Raw, I'm like, he never does the same content twice. Yeah. And he's successful. Like, yeah. I think the key, make sure that what you put out is of a certain caliber and a quality. And the way that you continue to push that to people is going to be how they grade you. And the rest of it is just targeted marketing, man. Like, you don't have to make 10 pieces of content unless your goal is to shoot so many shots and you don't know which one is going to hit. So you just keep shooting. And I think that works too, but yeah. I think that one tried and true method is, put your money and where it needs to be, and you fish where there's fish. You don't throw out a cast a net like the disciples. You don't cast a net on the wrong side of the boat, because then that's the people that make 20 pieces of content for one song and nothing hits. It's like, no, we don't want to do that. We want to make sure that when we cast, is direct, is to who we want it to be to, so that the people that need to bite it like my bait. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
No, I love that. I think that goes to, again, the consistency of how you're thinking about marketing your projects and not trying to do what everyone's doing and being something that can stand out. So I'm really excited to see what can happen with that. But, man, I want to keep you on time. I'd love to pray for you. I'd love to pray for your projects and get you back to your family. So, sweet. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this time with Jered and the time that you've given him to process and create beautiful art that reflects you. I pray that Talk to Me Nice would go out and hit the next 200,000, 300,000 listeners, and that something would click, that a pebble would be put in their shoe, that they would come to know you, but also just connect with the community and find something new in the music that Jered and his peers are bringing to the table. I pray for just the shoots that are coming up for the content, that would go well and smooth, that weather would be nice. And I also just pray for his next project with Famous Enough, that you would prepare hearts, go before him in that project and get people ready for that, Father. Thank you for this time. Thank you for my brother Jered. And we praise you and thank you for sending your son to the cross. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.